to connect with so many families this way. And I'm grateful that you're willing to join us virtually. And I'm excited to reuse a process that's been really effective for Woodside. So this particular set of instructions tonight is going to be really helpful as parents and families begin to register. And yeah, welcome to tonight. I'm going to stay on the call, so if you have any questions or anything, I know that we're gonna be able to answer those. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Claykel. I want to take the opportunity to introduce our counseling staff who are here tonight to present to us. Ms. Grimaldi and I will be answering any questions along the way in the chat. We're going to ask you folks to put those questions in the chat, and our presenters will be able to reference them out loud if they're not answers that we can just leave in the chat. Presenting tonight, we have two of our amazing counselors, Ms. Jeanette Locke and Mr. Eli Thornton, and they'll take us away walking you through our night of registration. Thank you.
All right, so how's everybody doing today? Hopefully you guys are doing all right. So again, my name is Eli Thornton. I'm one of the school counselors here. We're going to talk a little bit about just registration and the process that we're going to go through, not only for parents, but also for students as well. So we'll go on to the next slide that just kind of has a picture of all of our counselors here. So here's a wonderful picture of every counselor that we have, and then also our college and career advisors as well, and also the ladies that work in the front desk who are our guidance information specialists and our registrar as well. So you can just see the picture there of everybody there. We can go on to the next slide. So for goals for tonight, the main thing, like I said before, is just to understand just important information for course selection. We're going to learn how to use Infinite Campus to select courses. So we'll be able to go just step by step through that. And again, if there's any questions, please put those in the chat and we'll be happy to answer those. And then the last thing is we're just going to understand the process to change courses at the end. So we'll walk through that process. And then just one thing to note is we will send these slides out after the presentation. We'll also record, it's actually being recorded now. So we'll send that recording as well. And it'll be posted on our Woodside website through the guidance page. So you'll be able to see that and be able to review anything that you may have missed, or if you joined a little bit later, you can see some of the information that we provide here. And then also just whenever you see that little blue link, just know that if you clicked on that in the slides, you'll be able to access one of the links there when you click on that. So those are just our goals for tonight. So one thing to take note of is there is a big difference between graduation and college entrance requirements. We call them A through G requirements. Just A through G are the requirements to try to get into a Cal State or a UC or for the most part, four-year universities. This slide really isn't meant to just go through each of those categories. It's really just more so just to let you know that there is a difference between the two. As you can see, that little blue in the upper left-hand corner, you can click on this link and you guys can review this at any time. You can also schedule an appointment with your counselor, and we're happy to walk through some of these as well, just the differences between the two and making sure that your student is on pace for whatever their goal is. Our goal as counselors really is to make sure that students have as many options as possible. So even if a student as a freshman or sophomore thinks they just want to maybe start working after high school, or maybe go to a community college, or maybe start a business, or they just don't want to go to a four-year university, we still strive to have students be A through G eligible, just simply because we want students when they're seniors to have as many options as possible. We don't want to cut off any choices now as a freshman or sophomore that may hinder them later on down the road. So just know that we're also doing presentations about the graduation and A through G requirements with the ninth graders. So we just finished those yesterday. And then we did the same presentations, or very similar presentations, with our sophomores in the first semester. So they're fully aware of all this. So they usually get it at least twice before their junior year at a minimum, so that we definitely review this quite a bit. So we'll go on to the next slide here. So just an example, this is a 10th grade student. I know that we have 9th, 10th, and 11th grade students and parents on this call today, but this is just an example of a 10th grade schedule. You can see that for graduation and college, for the most part, they're very, very similar. You'll have English class, you'll have a world history class, you'll have a math class, a science class. You'll more than likely have a PE class as well, and then an elective class potentially. The only difference is a world language if you do plan on going to a four-year university. It is a requirement for A through G. It is not a requirement for graduation. A lot of people get that confused, but just know that for a foreign language, you do need 2 years. And realistically, it's not even just 2 years. It's really just getting to the second level is the most important thing. So we have some students that may speak a foreign language. Let's say it's Spanish for native speakers, or maybe they speak French already and they're already placed into that second level. And technically that meets that requirement of those 2 years that are required for A through G. But just know that there's very similar between the graduation and A through G requirements. The only difference is that world language that you can see there. And we'll go on to the next slide. So a couple of things to be aware of is course changes will automatically be completed with Woodside High School summer school. So an example of this is, let's say that there's a freshman that may have failed Algebra 1. We don't schedule students for, so what we would do is we would schedule that student for Algebra 1 the following year, and we would also schedule them to take that Algebra 1 over the summer. And as soon as they completed that Algebra 1 class, it would automatically be changed to geometry. So you wouldn't have to reach out to us. So that's kind of what that first point is that we will automatically make those changes as long as the student completes that course through summer school. Another thing is that we recommend that students enroll in PE. The only exception is if a student plans on playing a sport, right? So if they're passionate about a sport and they actually are going to play and continue on with that sport for all 4 years, then that's where we would really recommend that a student doesn't take a PE class their sophomore year. Other than that, we really highly recommend either taking a dance class, a PE2 class, or a weight training class. We would really want students to make sure that they fulfill that. We have quite a few seniors that end up having to take 2 PE classes just because they didn't take care of business their freshman or sophomore year, or maybe they just skipped over doing a PE class their sophomore year and then have to try to make up for it senior year. So trust me, I haven't met a junior or a senior that was happy in a PE class. So it's best to just take care of it as early as possible, either freshman or sophomore year, unless they're doing that sport. I don't want to get into the weeds of the sport, but just know that it's 3 seasons of a sport count as a full year of PE. So that doesn't have to be the same sport. So it could be badminton, for instance, sophomore, junior, and then senior year, or it could even potentially be 3 seasons all in 1 year, right? Where there's some athletes that play volleyball and they also, let's say, play soccer and they run track. Technically, those are those 3 seasons and they can complete that all in 1 year. So it doesn't have to be the same sport, just 3 total seasons of a sport for PE. The other point is all 9th through 11th graders have to be enrolled in at least 6 classes, and then seniors can be enrolled in 5 classes. So that's just something to take into account. And we'll go over detail exactly what that would look like in just a little bit. But just know that a minimum of 6 if you're a 9th through 11th grader, and then 5 classes for a senior. Another thing is when you do see your courses or the students' courses, there will be something that may say see counselor. That just means that we have not met with that student yet, and we will meet with the student. And as soon as we meet with the student, you won't see that on their courses or their course schedule any longer. But that's just more so for us to make sure we're keeping track of who we've met with and who we still need to meet with. All right, so just the registration timeline. So students will have access to change courses through Infinite Campus. So they can start that as early as tomorrow, so February 4th, all the way through May 5th. But we will be meeting with students one-on-one. So with 11th graders, we'll be meeting with them February 7th through March 9th. So we're starting with those students on Monday, and students will have emails sent to them, I think, tomorrow. So they'll know exactly when their times are. And we'll make sure that we walk them through everything from what's needed for summer school to what classes they need to take if they plan on meeting A through G. We'll also discuss a little bit about college requirements and things like that as well during that time, and the importance of having a college list during that meeting as well. So the 11th graders will start meeting with on Monday. 10th graders would be right after that following week on March 14th through March 25th. We'll be meeting with all of our 10th graders. We did do, like I mentioned before, 10th grade presentations in the first semester, where we not only went over graduation and A through G requirements, but we also kind of front loaded some of those classes. So students were able to actually select some of those classes and input those but they weren't finalized. We'll meet with them and make sure that if they were a little bit iffy on whether or not they wanted to do an AP English class or whether or not wanted to do a particular elective, we'll be able to clean that up and meet with them and answer any questions that they may have at that time. And then at ninth graders, we'll be meeting with those students April 25th through May 4th. But like I mentioned before, we just finished classroom presentations where we not only went through graduation A through G requirements, they also selected classes through Infinite Campus as well. And we walked them through that process. So we just finished that up. One thing to take note of is if there's any questions about classes or anything like that, even after this presentation, feel free to reach out to your counselor and we'll be happy to answer into that. We also want to really try to encourage students to meet with their counselor as well, just to try to build that relationship and that rapport and things like that. So that's also something that would be highly beneficial for students. If they did have questions, have them come see us and we'll be happy to answer, or email as well. So one thing, after you select courses, after we meet with students one-on-one, the best way to change courses is to send an email to the student's counselor. So that's going to be something that we'll do. And then you'll also have an opportunity to change classes as well, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. And then just that last point there, if students and guardians would like to make any changes, like I mentioned, just contact us and we'll be happy to make that. All right, so just the timeline, we kind of just went over a little bit of that right now, but we'll go ahead and go through a little bit more of a timeline here. So starting on Monday, students can select courses through their Infinite Campus portal, which we'll go through those details in just a little bit. February through April, students will meet with us and just discuss classes, and an email will be sent to all the guardians as well. So you'll be able to review those classes, and if there's any things that you'd want to change, just contact us. You can also make changes through something called an online information update. So some of our sophomore and junior families may already be familiar with this process, but freshman parents it must be a new process, but we're going to go through that in just a little bit. But just know that through May 1st through the 22nd, you'll be able to request any changes through this portal. And that's one of the best ways to be able to do that. And yeah, we'll be able to go through that process in just a little bit. And you'll also be required to verify household information. That was that last point there. All right, so we'll go through this course registration process here. So first thing to look at and to be cognizant of is you'll just go to that portal.seq.org website. There's also that link that's going to be there. You'll click on campus, as you'll see on that screenshot there. You click on campus student. Then the student would just log in with their student number and then their password, which is usually their initials and then 6-digit birthday. As you'll see on that screenshot there, you'll click on more, and then they will click on course registration, which is that 4th item on the list. So once they select that, the next step in the process will be, you'll click on 2022-2023 Woodside High School. And then the most important thing is you'll see that progress bar at the top there. As you're inputting the classes, that progress bar will increase. And then your goal is just to try to get to 100%, right? So like I mentioned before, freshmen through junior parents just need 6 classes, and then seniors would be the 5 classes. But the way that you would just complete those other 2 would be you would select an unscheduled period, and we'll go over that in a little bit more detail with some screenshots there. But just know that you're just trying to get to that 100% by selecting the courses that you would want. And yeah, that would pretty much be that final step there. The last thing to note is that all students were rolled into grade level courses. Students would need to choose either AS or AP classes. So we don't choose AS or AP classes for students. It's open to any and all students, as long as they're willing to take on the rigor of the course and the homework load and that type of thing. But we don't do that automatically. That's something that students will have to select either in our one-on-one meetings or when you guys put the classes through the process that we just went through. And then we'll go in a little bit more detail with this process, and I'll have Ms. Locke continue on with that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thornton. And if at any point you have questions, please continue to drop them into the chat. We are happy to answer them as they come up. So as continuing with the course registration process, how do we actually select courses? Some of these courses will be preloaded, but what's really important to understand is if your child is headed towards college and you want to be competitive for college, it is super important to make sure that you have at least these 4 core subject areas: social studies, English, science, and math. And these would look different depending on which grade level. For example, this current screenshot that we're looking at, because it's modern European history, is probably a schedule for a 10th grader, a rising 10th grader. When you do get access to the slide deck, this link on the bottom left is for graduation and A to G requirements, references the exact same document that Mr. Thornton referenced earlier. It's a link to our school website that has the table that compares graduation and A to G requirements. So the first step of course registration, if you look at the bottom, is really just to select courses, both your core content classes, social studies, English, science, and math, as well as additional elective classes. So in order to request electives, essentially what you'll see when you go into the course request, you'll click on a button that says add course, which will take you to a page that looks like this on the right. And you will simply just add courses by thinking about which is your first choice elective. So order matters in that you want to actually click the plus sign for your first choice elective. So you'll click the plus, and then when you find your second one, you'll click your second plus sign. And it's the blue sign on the left under the word action. And every time you click a plus sign, there will be a pop-up window like the one on the bottom, add course. Would you like to add this course as a request or an alternate? And if you have not yet reached the 100% at the top, so currently this sample student is at 71% complete. So the course that they're adding would go under a request. And so you would just go ahead and click all the courses and you would click request until you've reached 100%. If you accidentally make a mistake and you're not sure if you've actually selected the course, this is kind of a screenshot to show you the difference. The top half kind of shows you what it looks like when you haven't selected the course yet. So there will still be that blue plus sign under the 5A, but once you've officially selected the course and you've clicked the request button, there will actually, the plus sign will be replaced with that red X. And then you'll actually see a green REQ over to the right over there. And that's when you'll know that the course has been selected. You should also, be able to signal that the progress bar should also move up. And again, we're trying to reach 7 out of 7 so that we can get to 100% completion. So those are the 2 things that you can check for to make sure that you have added the courses. And if you've added the wrong one, simply click the red X and it will remove the course from your course requests and continue adding until you do reach 100%. At the bottom of this slide, you'll see a link that we are not going to show you today, but when we share out the deck, you'll notice that there's a link for a list of electives that you can take as a 7th course. So here at Woodside, students typically take 6. If they are hoping to take a 7th course, they are choosing from a very specific list of elective courses, including many of our CTE courses, some of our language courses, among others. And so those are things to look out for. If you are interested in a 7th course, it has to come from a pre-approved list of 7 classes. After you've actually reached 100%, like what you see in this screenshot over here, 100% complete, 7 out of 7, even if that means that you've selected unscheduled courses to fill it to 100%. The next step is to select alternates. So at some point, your child may request electives, but if there is no space in these electives for a student, we would then turn to the alternate courses. So it is actually to your benefit to choose alternate classes, because if there are no alternates, then the schedule won't have any fallback plan for you. So you should select at least 2 alternates. And the way you would do this is very similar. You would do this after you've reached the 100% completion. You do this by clicking on the blue plus sign, but this time, instead of clicking the blue request button, you will actually click the alternate button, which is to the right of the request button. So you would just do that for 2 classes that seem interesting, potential electives that you would be excited to take if your first choice, second choice, whatever it is, electives don't have space. After you've selected 2 electives, so you've reached 100% for the courses you're selecting, you've selected your 2 alternates, now you can review your selections. You will know that you've successfully requested electives and selected alternatives. If you click the back button at the top, you're going to notice that you should see 100% complete, and then you'll notice all the classes that have been added with the green REQ for the requests and then the blue ALT for your alternates. So you can just check your answers there. And just as a reminder, Woodside's online registration is based upon 7 classes. Students are not selecting periods, so it doesn't matter kind of what order it is. You are simply just selecting 7 courses, and the system will schedule the students later on after everyone's requests are put in. And 9th and 11th graders need at least 6 classes in order to kind of meet the minimum at Woodside. And if you choose to only take 6 classes, please do add a 7th class as the unscheduled. For 12th graders, you need at least 5 classes, 5 courses. And so if you are taking the minimum 5 courses, you would add 2 unscheduled courses to fulfill the 100%. So you're done selecting courses. Here are kind of the 2 checks. When you hit the back button, you'll see 100% complete bar. And again, you would reach the 100% over here. Just fill it in with unscheduled if you're not taking the full load, and then you have at least 2 alternate electives down at the bottom. And then again, if you have any questions, please do connect with your school counselor in order to have those answered for you. That's overall the process for selecting courses on Infinite Campus. And I will say that for this entire process, it's the student that needs to be the one who is logging in. Only students have access. Families cannot go in through their own accounts, but you're definitely welcome to sit next to your child and review this process with them. On this page, you're going to see several links. We don't currently have the most updated course catalog, but when we send out the slides and as we have this link updated, we will update the slide with the link to the course catalog for 2022-2023. This link does provide us with a rigor and homework matrix. Oftentimes we get questions from students and families about what is the expectation or the amount of homework that a student might receive from the various AP or advanced standing courses, and even courses like Algebra 2 Trig, which is an advanced class. Excuse me. These are ways that you can read about what the expectation is from the teacher end. But on top of that, we administered a survey across the school for all students this year. And through that survey, students replied and identified the number of hours or minutes that they spent doing homework for that course. And so that information is compiled on the rigor and homework matrix, which is also available on our school website. This link basically takes you to that document. Again, here's the 3rd time that the graduation and E2G college entrance requirements is linked for your reference. We also do have an AP nights on April 21st, so please mark your calendars if your child is interested in taking AP classes. This is a night where we will give more information about upcoming AP courses for the next year. You will have a chance to visit about 2 to 3 classes and actually hear from the AP teacher and current AP students about what the experience is like taking those classes, so that you and your child aren't kind of going in blind into those classes. So you'll have some type of expectation. So these are references for you in case you are interested in reviewing more for your records. Mr. Thornton also referenced that we do have some information on our Woodside website. So here is the homepage for the Woodside website, the tab in the middle, guidance and counseling, and the first tab underneath that is 2022-2023 registration for returning students. You go ahead and click that, you'll see a long page. The screenshot on the left is the screenshot at the top of the page, and then at the bottom would be information at the bottom. At the close of this presentation, when the recording is over, we're actually going to drop the recording onto the top of this page as well, in case you want to review it. There's also some text if it's easier to read some of the information. And then the links to the slides are actually already there for you to access. So we do have our website as a resource for you for the future. And so throughout the course of this presentation, we've said if you have any questions at all, please connect with your school counselor. So I will leave this information up here in case you want to take down the extension for your school counselor or the email address for your school counselor. So this actually concludes our prepared portion of the registration night, but we do have a few questions. Mr. Negri or Ms. Grimaldi, were there any standout questions you wanted to highlight from the chat? I think you've actually answered all of them, but in case, I think folks see the responses, but they don't see the questions. So just if there's anything you want to highlight for folks.
Absolutely. One of the questions that just came in was, how do you take an appointment with the counselor for the registration review? Those are already set up. Your students will be notified of those appointments, and we'll meet with the students individually, separate. If a parent wanted to take part or be involved, then you would communicate out with the counselor to make sure that we could make that happen. Another question came in, can ninth graders meet with their counselors sooner than late April? We do have opportunities to meet with students, but because we're meeting with students in the 11th grade and then the 10th grade, it's a lot harder to do. We did meet with all ninth graders in their classes just recently. It is not first come, first serve. So it's not like your student is going to miss out an opportunity if they meet with their counselor later. Every student's going to have an opportunity to take the courses that they need. Where usually about 94 to 97% of students get their first choice of elective, and it's probably higher than that as far as students getting their first choice of core required classes. So let's see, Ms. Grimaldi, did I miss any questions there? I think there was a question about, should students select their courses now or wait until they meet with their counselor? We open this because many students want to take part of the process early on. They don't have to, but this is your first opportunity to engage with selecting courses for next year. Once they meet with the counselor, that would be their second opportunity. And then through the online information update, that's your third opportunity. And so it really is dependent on the student if they'd like to really engage with it prior. We always recommend the sooner they start to do it, the sooner they think about it, maybe are able to ask questions of either fellow students. We hope that they engage with their current teachers to find out what the next course would look like. And so all those things really are initiated when a student is figuring out what they want to take.
There is a question to share a little bit more about the academies, the GTA Academy and the Green Academy.
So the academies start in the sophomore year. They're actually doing the recruiting as we speak. The GTA, which is the Graphic and Technology Academy, they are really based in technology. And so a student interested in that, it's a small cohort that follows each other sophomore, junior, and senior year. And it really just shrinks the school, allows students to kind of get to know similar like-minded students for a longer duration of time. So if you have a shy student or a student that you feel would just benefit from knowing who their teachers are ahead of time, knowing who their classmates are ahead of time, the academy works wonders that way. They also have some embedded programming in there, like being able to have mentors and things like that, that really enhance the opportunities for students if they're interested in that type of technology. The Green Academy would be more along the lines of kind of environmentally sound and sustainable practices. And again, similar with the cohorts and with the like-minded students, really an opportunity to get hands-on with the curriculum. We do have an outdoor teaching area where students are really practicing what they preach. We have chickens out there and bees out there, and they're really diving in on learning what it is to practice sustainability of the environment.
I would also add that the programming in the GTA, the Graphics and Technology Academy, does include the ability for students to earn college credit, not college entrance credit, but actually step up and be dual enrolled in a course if they choose to do so. In fact, there's 2 options to do that. So when they leave school, they actually have entrance credit college credit. And then in terms of CTE pathways as well, there's a lot of career technical education course offerings in both of the academies.
There's another question about sports being played in the freshman year. Do they count as part of the 3 seasons for PE?
Freshman year PE does not count. It does count for elective credit. So students do get elective credit. It just doesn't count towards the PE requirement. That happens starting in the sophomore year. So that's when students would count. So a student, for instance, playing volleyball would do it sophomore, junior, and senior year. Those 3 seasons would equate to the year of PE needed.
Let's see.
There are no deadlines. Well, I take that back. There is a deadline for students to complete their registration. But remember, counselors are already scheduling times with your students. So they're automatically going to, if they tried to avoid all of us, they would still end up having to meet with us individually. But the deadline would be right before the online information update, where students are then, actually guardians are required to confirm that the classes that have been selected are appropriate and give us all the latest information of your family and household.
There's a question about middle college. I can speak on that. So students can do concurrent enrollment at any time. That means that they can do a community college class, whether that's through Kenyatta, College of San Mateo, Skyline, even Foothill or De Anza, or any community college. I even had some students do some virtually, even in Southern California, you can do community college classes, but mainly they're the ones that are in our district, which are Kenyatta, CSM, and Skyline. So that's concurrent enrollment. Students can take classes like psychology or a wide range of classes there. But middle college is where students basically do all of their classes at Kenyatta College. So they would essentially be earning high school credit and college credit. That starts their their junior year. And they can still participate in all of the school dances and sports and everything like that. But essentially, they'll be there with other students from other schools within the district, and also some adults as well, because they will be taking college classes, and then they'll meet their high school and college graduation requirements there. So that's a little bit about that. They also have some informational meetings. I believe the next one is a Zoom meeting. I can maybe look into that and put it in the chat. But typically what I do is I go to the kenyattacollege.edu website. In the search bar, I just type in middle college, and you'll find all of the information from how to apply to all the important dates to even some of the colleges that students have gone to. They give you a little bit more information about it. And then they also have when their next informational night will be. But yeah, that's a little bit of information about middle college. And I'll be happy to put that in the chat as well.
There was a question about summer school dates. Anyone have the summer school dates in front of them?
I actually do. So for credit recovery summer school or Compass? I guess I could just share. Credit recovery summer school, whoops, excuse me. My calendar's playing fun games here. Starts on Monday, the 13th. And goes all the way through. So first session goes until July 1st. We have a 3-day weekend. Second session begins on Tuesday, July 5th and goes through the 22nd. I can type that in the chat as well. Compass is a shorter program, and that's a bridge program for incoming students. That also begins it begins June 16th, the Thursday of that week, and is only a 4-week program. So it ends on July 8th, it looks like.
Mr. Thornton, you mentioned concurrent enrollment. There's a question, where can we learn more about taking courses at Kenyatta and getting high school credit?
Yeah, I think probably the best way would be to try to just meet with your counselor, just so we can find out what their interests are, whether it is like psychology classes or whether or not they wanted to. I've had some students do like a marine biology class. I've had students they wanted to do like a yoga class and things like that. There's a wide range of classes that students can take. So just meet with the counselor. We'll get what their interests are. There is also a website. I believe it's Web Schedule. I can put it in the link once I search for it. But it's Web Schedule, where you can search a topic and then you can find out all the classes, find out how many openings there are, if there's a wait list for it, when the class starts, if it's an online class or in person. One thing to be cognizant of is that students can't take community college classes within that school day from 8 to 3. Just because it interferes with classes. So it would have to be in the evenings or like an online course, so those are pretty much the two options that students have. But yeah, just meeting with the counselor would probably be the best option, or looking through that Web Schedule, which I'll put in it's actually there in the link in the chat now. Thank you for that, Ms. Locke.
Ms. Locke, there was a question about taking geometry over the summer. Do we offer geometry over the summer? And what would that do to our fall courses?
There is actually an application for students who are interested in taking summer school geometry. If you are interested in that, please speak with your school counselor if that is something that you would like to do over the summer. But that is not within, I think this parent is asking if that's what's happening during Compass, but that I believe is separate from Compass.
Just note too that your math teachers will have information also about the summer geometry course. And there is a piece where they provide a recommendation. So make sure to connect with your teachers as well. As you're thinking about courses for next year, course for this summer, connect with your teachers. You know, they're the best people that they will know levels. They will know, your students best as well. So connect with them and they can help with also, if you're thinking of moving up a level, they can help you decide that as well.
Ms. Grimaldi, is there a place where we can find summer school classes?
So summer school classes are, they will be if your student needs to retake a class. So we'll speak about that with the students one-on-one. And then when we send you the course selection, you'll see the classes on there that your student needs to retake. So you'll be able to see courses that they've selected for next year, and you'll be able to see courses for summer school as soon as we finish that one-on-one meeting with your student.
And I think we shared the dates for summer school, but we're asking the question specifically for geometry. And I think Ms. Locke just put that in there. Thank you. And those applications will be available on the website as well. I think we are able to answer everybody's questions. We will stick around for just a tad bit longer if we continue to receive questions, but we definitely want to thank you for joining us. Hopefully you found this interesting and you can engage with your students in course selection before we start to help them select courses. We look forward to working with you folks and getting to know your students better. And again, your counselors are always here to be able to provide any support your students need. So please reach out to us. Have a wonderful evening.
Mr. Negri, there's also a question about when the first day of school is. Is the instructional calendar hasn't been board approved yet, correct? Okay, so we won't know. I think it's usually board approved at the end of February.
It's going before the board at the next board meeting.
Okay, we won't know until then.
We will definitely publicize that when it comes out. We just unfortunately don't know yet. Thank you again and have an amazing evening. On behalf of the counseling staff, we look forward to working with you. Ms. Kamali, did you end the